Hello and welcome to round 13 of the HSO Kart 1988 Championship, bringing to you tonight the Bosch Sparkplug Grand Prix from Pennsylvania International Raceway, also known as the Nazareth Speedway. And with me in the booth tonight I have Dave Miller. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Jonathan. Time once again for another round of the Kart 88 series. Once again, I come to you from Boris the Bettenhausen Ugola. At least that's what most of the cars made of these days.
Indeed they are. And it looked like, at least position-wise, you were struggling a little bit in practice here, but I noticed that the top 8 was covered by just under 0.3 of a second. Which is
very...
Sorry, go ahead.
It's going to be a very close race, this one. The track lends itself to close racing, and I think the field's going to be quite bunched up.
It's quite likely. I think we have 25 odd cars racing tonight, and with the track being technically not even a mile, I think it's 0.97 miles long, which is 1.56, I think, sort of kilometers long. That it'll be very crowded indeed. And of course, this is a tri-oval, the shortest one we are visiting in this championship, and we'll be going for a full 200 laps. And thanks to some insider information, the race is probably going to average about 58 to 62 laps on a full tank of fuel. And of course, the track is very short, the turns are quite tight. So tire wear will also be a problem.
Definitely in practice, after only half a stint, the rear of Boris was starting to get a little bit loose from the tyre wear, so that's definitely going to play a part tonight.
I thought Boris wasn't only loose with tyre wear, but there we go. And of course, Nazareth itself, of course, started as a horse racing track in the 1850s, and it was known as the Northampton County Agricultural Fairgrounds. In the 1900s, a half-mile dirt track was constructed, and the first automobile race was held after the Great Depression in 1947, and the race included then 35 cars and attracted a crowd of 11,000 spectators, which I suppose made it clear that the place was a good racing location, and from then on it was plain sailing up until early 2000s.
Oh, yeah, so many racetracks starting as a horse circuit and then, quite unfortunately, being lost to us in the modern world.
Indeed, I can think of, well, it's technically still in use, but Pukekohe in Australia is one of those places where it's very clear that it was a horse racing track as well, with the infield still being used for horse racing.
Of course, another good example of a horse track would be Aintree in the UK.
Oh, of course, of course.
The Grand Prix.
One of the most well-known, if historic, British tracks. But yeah, also before we head to the racing itself, I believe qualifying is soon to be over. Let's have a quick look at the points. where Thiago Canola is leading the championship, 19 points ahead of David Yates, 154 points to 135. Those are the big contenders in the championship with 3 rounds to go. David Junt lines up third in the championship on 94 points, and equal fourth is Richard Coxon and Richard Wilkes, 81 points each. Still a bit of time to go, but I noticed that Adam Hackman is currently sitting on pole. I believe there's still a few drivers to do their laps, but I know Adam has some good pace here. So hopefully he'll have a good qualifying and a good race following that. But very quickly, coming up at HSO, we have next weekend the 59th Grand Prix de France and the 5th Trophée Paul Ricard. The 1973 Formula 3 Championship coming back to us. Rounds 11-12, the last 2 rounds of... Sorry, the second to last 2 rounds. There'll be a double header at Monaco and I believe it's Brands Hatch to finish out the year in 3 weeks' time. But that's Sunday, November the 17th at 2000 CET. And after that, on the following Wednesday, we have round 6 of 8 of the 1995 Supertourenwagen Meisterschaft, the International Adak Alpen Trophée, coming from Salzburgring. Still used today in touring cars. I know the World Touring Cars has raced quite a few races there. I can't remember if they've done it in the last... since they changed to the TCR regulations, but I know in the under the previous regulations they have raced at Salzburgring. And then in 2 weeks' time, Sunday, November 24th, we will have round 14, the second to last round of the 1988 Kart Championship, and the Champion Spark Plug 300 kilometers from Laguna Seca. Let's see, I believe everyone has done their laps, and Adam Hackman is actually lining up on pole position for the Craco Racing team, which is very impressive indeed, it has to be said.
Yeah, that's a very quick time there, but Jakes is not far behind. 21.3 for Hemmelgarn Racing. Alberto Ibanez and the Penske are also right up there. Very, very close in the top 10.
Even top 13, I'd say. Top 13 cars covered by 7/10. Although, of course, as you say, well, yeah, it's very tight. Whole field covered by 1.5 seconds. Unfortunately, only 18 cars by the looks of things. I thought we were a few more available here, but 18 cars we have. 1.5 seconds covering the whole field. And top 13 covered by 7/10, which essentially is nothing at a 21-second lap time.
And in a little bit of draft and traffic, and that can very suddenly... a driver in 13th can very suddenly find himself a lot further up the grid.
Oh, for sure. That's definitely a very high possibility. Good evening, Angel May, and good evening, Berlin. Hope you're doing okay as well. And while we wait, this is of course as people has said anyway, the home race for both Michael and Mario Andretti. Both of them starting their career, I believe, on the dirt track part of the facilities, owning their craft and getting up to speed.
Indeed, I believe they lied about their age, as they were too young to race when they first moved to America.
I wouldn't be surprised about that, to be perfectly honest. But also understandable, because they were really good at putting a racetrack on the track and pulling it around at a breakneck set of speeds. You can see the cars now heading out onto the track. I believe the driver's briefing has been gone through and reminded the drivers of the specific rules that apply. As we are on board now with Dave Miller heading out on track, so whenever you're ready, take it away.
Certainly, coming out of the long pit exit. It's a very short track. It was described earlier as being like Phoenix, but on some kind of meth or drug. Anyway, cross the line into this turn 1, which is completely flat, quite easy. Turn 2, 3, tightens in the middle and then opens on the exit. It's all about when you get on the throttle to get a good run through that. And this last one, very tight on the entry and very tricky to get on the power without going up into the wall. That's a lap of Nazareth. It's very short, very quick and very tight.
And here we can also get a very graphic representation of how tight it'll be. We have, I believe it's about 8 cars now, covered by probably about 4 or 5 seconds along the track. And all of them affected by the dirty air as well. Of course, despite the tightness of the track, so to speak, the speeds are very high. As you can see there, David Yates sneaking up the inside of Dave and having a bit of a slide on. And Adam Hackman in behind.
Certainly so. Well, these cars will be easily nudging 175, 180 miles an hour on light fuel coming into these turns, and they'll not be slowing down that much.
Ay, ay, ay. I'm happy I'm not racing. I wouldn't dare going into the corners at that kind of speed.
And from this point on, that'll be on worn tyres as well.
That will indeed be one of the trickiest part of this race. Getting the most speed out of the car with worn tires and light fuel. And of course the difference in balance, because the car's balance changes a lot depending on how much fuel is in it. And here we can see as well, it's very tricky to pass as well. As we can see, someone has
Absolutely, if you can hold the car in that groove, it's going to be very difficult for the other guy to find his way around you.
Ooh. Very much so. I'd assume that's either Adam Hackman or Tiago Canola who was up in the wall there. Trying to find the limit, and by the looks of things pushing it a little bit beyond. And someone else has had a bit of an off, that's Jason White, I believe, in the Yad powered car.
I believe that's his old car, Jonathan. Jason White's
yeah.
now driving for True Sports.
Yes, of course it is. Is it Greg Delacella then, I believe, who could be driving that car? Yes, it is. My apologies, I'm so used to drivers being in certain cars that it's difficult to get out of the habit. Here we can see Yannick and Yakes in a bit of a... well, I was going to say a bit of a battle, but David Yakes flew past, so... And here again we can see a representation of the tightness. Top 12 seems to be on race pace, covered by 0.7 per second. Oh, I can understand that anyway, but hopefully it'll still be okay when you get it out to the tee. Hopefully you feel better soon, Berlin, so you can have your cousin and aunt over. Or, yeah, aunt, I think it's the way I would say it. If that's incorrect, then my apologies. And I agree, Jason, Adam's pole lap was a very good one indeed. Very, very, very impressive. We can see here David Yakes having a bit of a pit lane practice as well, which in itself would be crucial, because if there's a green flag pit stop, the quicker you get in and out, the quicker your overall race will be, and considering you'll drop probably 2, maybe 3 laps in the pits for a full tank of fuel and new tires, every little bit of time helps. Ooh, someone has had a buff, I think that's Grant Rideau. I don't know if you would want to quickly change to push to talk. We can hear gear changes from time to time, Dave.
Yep, I'm just doing that now.
Yes. Just thought I'd remind you, just in case.
Not a problem, I'm push to talk now.
Cheers. Now let's see, considering the... well, it's so close to the race, never mind. First yellow we get, we will have a look at the trivia question, so that you have something to ponder for the following laps. Hopefully it'll be a long time until we see a yellow though, but with the tightness of the track, it could be a quick yellow early on. Okay, so the field lining up in the pit lane. They were doing one lap and then they'll start, so I'll have a quick going through the field. Adman Hackman will start on pole. David Yates, there we go. David Yates will be second for Hamilton. Alberto Ibanez will start third for Team Penske. Fourth will be Richard Wilkes for Dick Simon Racing. Fifth is Thiago Canola in the second of the Dick Simon Racing cars. The West sponsored car for this race. Grant Riddle will be 6th for Vince Granatelli Racing. Jason White will start 7th for True Sports. David Saber will start 8th for Newman Haas. 9th is David Junt for Renault Racing. 10th and just getting away now is Ray Riddle for Patrick Racing. Jason Fitch is 11th for Curb Racing. Welcome back, Jason. He's been sitting out some of the road courses for Pascal Mikla to drive. Greg Delacella lines up 12th for Hemmelgarn. 13th is Brian Yannick for Alex Morales Motorsports, so a lackluster qualifying for him this time around. 14th Jason Whited for Leader Card Racing. 15th Gerard Riot, Arciero Racing. Mick Chapman 16th for Team Penske. 17th Dave Miller for Bettenhausen in the Boris machine. And 18th and last on the grid is Bruno Chacon for Gore Racing. Oh, I needn't have been so quick, it seems. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So the safety car having a bit of a wander about there, but now heads into the pits. So let's see if we can get some good racing going. As the green flag now is out, Adam Hackman heads off. Let's see what we get here. David Yates trying to go around outside. Looks like he had a bit of a better start, but Adam Hackman is down in the groove, so he should possibly take the lead. But no, David Yates with a great start here takes the lead. A bit of too wide in the background here. Looks like they all sorted it out. That's one lap already done. And that's another lap down. It'll possibly be a very quick race, this. So David Yates still in the lead, Adam Hackman second, Ibanez third with Canola fourth, Wilkes fifth, David Saber up into 6th, 7th for David Junt, 8th for Jason White, 9th for Grant Riddle, and rounding out the top 10 is Brian Yannick with a good start, up from 16th to 10th. Ray Riddle 11th, then there's a little bit of a gap to Jason Fitch, and then Jason Whited in behind him. Then there's a bit of a group with Gerard Rion, Dave Miller and Mick Chapman. Then there's a bit of a gap back to Bruno Chacon and Greg Delacella. And the fastest lap of the race at 22.1 in race pace. That's very quick indeed. David Yates wanting to lead the field away and open up the gap and control the race from there. As I believe Adam Hackman may have had a bit of a moment, because now Alberto Ibanez is up ahead. Actually no, it was just, well, no. Adam Hackman had a bit of a slow run off turn 5. And that was enough for Alberto Ibanez to sneak past through turn 1 and head up into second position. Looks like Ray de la Cella was lining up Bruno Chacon then, but not to be that time around. Back to the front, we can see now a 2.2 second lead for David Yates. And Hackman down into third. Theo Canola sitting in behind him, looking for a way to get by, I think. And Wilkes, of course, 5th. Then it's Saber and Yunt. On board with Jason White in 8th. As we can see, David Yunt looking for a bit of a run on David Saber. Looks like he should possibly have it. But of course, that's Elmore Chevrolet power in Saber's Newman Haas entry, and a lowly Cosworth, but now with a good run through 2 and 3. Yunt is up the inside through 4 and 5, and still side by side. Saber streaking away just a little bit in a straight line and holds on to the position for now. Here comes David Yunt again, looking for a move up the inside in 4 and 5. Owen Saber with a bit of a loose moment, Yunt as well. So both of them pushing very hard. Looks like Jason White's car is a bit more settled at the moment anyway. You can see on entry the way. Oh, as Jason White unfortunately has to lose. Oh, Mr. Ooh. Wow. Wow. Ryan Yannick. How did you miss Jason? Oi. So unfortunately, I put the commentator's curse on Jason there. And I have no idea how Brian didn't hit Jason. Very good avoidance from Jason Fitch as well. So unfortunately we are under yellow flag here. And Jason White unfortunately having to run through the pit lane, ends up behind the safety car but just ahead of the leaders. So that's very unfortunate indeed for Jason. He was having a good race in the opening 12 laps. But yeah, with that, let's have a quick look at the trivia question, so you have something to think about it, as it looks like Jason White has been released from behind the safety car now. That's nice to see. But he'll be at the back of the field at least, and not just in front of the leaders. But the trivia question for you tonight is: who won the last IndyCar race held at Nazareth, which was Sunday, August 29th, 2004? Was it A, the late great Dan Weldon? B, I believe the still racing, he may have lost the ride coming into the next season, Tony Kanaan? Or the fast Scott, Dario Franchitti. I can let you know that I had that one completely wrong, but to be fair, my interest in IndyCar wasn't quite as big as kart, so that's my excuse anyway. You see that a few has pitted. Mick Chapman, I believe, has been in the pits. Jason Whiter has been in. I believe Brun Chacon has been in, and Greg Della Cella has been in. And unfortunately lost a lap with that, but we are back on the green flag. We can see Greg Della Cella having to get out of the way, trying to stay off the wall and out of everyone's way. But still in the lead is David Yates. He had, I believe, almost a 3-second lead. All that has evaporated. And now he has Alberto Ibanez right behind him as we have another yellow, unfortunately. Oh dearie me, that's a big one! Brian Yannick is off. Spinning in front of the field, that's why I thought it was a big one. Oh, and it looks like his car is heavily damaged. Oh, I wonder if his pit crew will be able to fix that. Let's see if we can possibly find out what happened. It actually looks like it's happened even further up. Was it Jason Whited, I wonder? That had a bit of a loose? No, can't have been. See, let's jump on board with him and see if we can... Looks like there's a bit of contact between, is that Junt and... That's David Saber. So contact between Saber and Junt sent Saber sideways. Both Yannick and Riddle nowhere much to go, so Riddle hits Saber. Yannick tries to swerve to the left, and then the counter, the tank slapper sends Yannick sideways and round into the barriers very hard indeed, or outside wall. And then we can see him spinning across the field and onto the infield. And Yannick is still going, so he will try to repair the car, but we can see that the car is crabbing substantially, but I really hope his pit crew will be able to fix that one. Greg Della Cella is in as well. I believe he may have been involved a little bit with contact. And David Yates, a 10-second stop go? What? Do they mean that he passed the safety car? I sure hope not, but we are back to green flag racing. You can see Alberto trying for a bit of a cutback there. Got the whole field coming past, trying to get themselves sorted out. When Alberto Ibanez with the fastest lap of the race at a 22.125. That's a stonkingly quick time as well. But after the most recent set of safety cars, David Yates still in the lead, but I believe he has to stop for a stop and go penalty. Alberto Ibanez currently second, Adam Hackman third, Richard Wilkes fourth, but he has close behind him both David Junt and Thiago Canola. Seventh for David Saber, so it looks like he was able to avoid major damage from his spin. As David Yates now heads into the pits for a quick stop and go. I hope he won't lose a lap, but I reckon he will probably lose a lap. You see here comes Alberto, so he'll lose just over a lap from this stop and go penalty. Which is very unfortunate indeed, but the rules are there and they are to be followed, I suppose. So David Yates 15th, 1 lap down. And Brian Yannick is still in the pit lane trying to get the car repaired. Greg De La Cella currently 17th. Bruno Chacon 16th. As David Yates immediately out of the pits clearly shows that he has some pace to burn at 21.9. So he will be wanting to get back up the field. So sitting now behind Ray Riddle in 7th. Here he goes. I think he'll have a far better run than Ray, who ran a little bit wide. He had to check up to not hit the wall. So now past 7th, and now Saber next in 6th for David Yates to unlap himself. And here we can see actually a little bit of a fight by the looks of things. It's Dave Miller. Up in front of him it's Jason Fitch, and behind him we have Jason White, Gerard Rion, Jason White and Mick Chapman. So it looks like a neat little battle group here as Gerard Rion makes a bit of a mistake. Jason White sneaks up the inside. So White up into 12th, I believe. Ooh, runs a little bit wide though. Gerard Rion has to check up, as does Mick Chapman. So very nearly contact there, but all of them able to survive. Whited, sorry, not White. Yeah, Whited looking up the inside of Jason White. Put 2 tires on the grass, couldn't quite get by. There does seem to be a little bit of a difference in the lines people are taking. 36 laps in the books. Jean Rion trying to hold on to his position, as we can see the lead Alberto Ibanez closing in on the this battle group. Sorry to hear it, Matthew, but good to have you here watching. As White it now looks for a move up the inside of Jason White. Can't quite make that happen. Alberto Ibanez sneaks past Gerard Rion. Now Ibanez Ibanez goes past Jason Whitehead. Ooh, as Jason White has a big lose through the last turn. Just about able to keep it off the wall. And now Whitehead sneaks up past him as well. That was a huge moment for Jason White. I'm happy to see that he was able to catch it. Looks like Jason Fitch has been able to pull away from the group behind. And we have Grant Riddall, David Saber 7th, Ray Riddall 6th, Thiago Canola 5th, and being unlapped by his championship contender in David Yates. So now David Yates up into effective 5th, only 1 lap down. And now right behind David Junt as well. So trying to make use of the lap traffic to help himself as he now sneaks up the inside. And David Junt knows what's going on here and decides that he doesn't need to fight with David Yates and lets him past. It looks like Mick Chapman may have pitted for fuel now, or he may have had a bit of a moment, but David Yates is past him. No, he's right behind there, so it's simply... Oh, there's a big contact with the barriers there. That's Saber and Hackman, I believe, in the wall. No yellow flag out. So David Junt now up into 3rd. There's Thiago Canola. Adam Hackman now down in 5th. Not entirely sure what happened there, but that looked very...
That was Hackman losing it in front of me. Open.
Oh, sorry, that was you, Dave. Okay. Thought it was Saber. Okay, indeed, he lost it very much in front of you, so... Oh, dearie me. There's some heavy wall contact for both of you. I hope both your cars are at least okay.
Boris has been in better shape, but I'm going to try and hang on.
Okie dokie, sounds good. Shouldn't be too long until the first pit stop, around 15 to 20 laps. So hopefully you'll be able to keep it on the road as Canola laps Jason White. And David Junt in 3rd, Richard Wilkes in 2nd, lapping Jason Whitehead. Junt and Canola follows Wilkes through. And then way up the road, 11 seconds up the road, is Alberto Ibanez. Dear me. And we can see here that Brian Yannick's pit crew has worked miracles as Brian Yannick is back out and circulating. I think Yannick owes his pit crew not just one but many beverages. So we unfortunately have another yellow. That's Jason Whitehead who unfortunately has had a spin by the looks of things. Yep, trying to get on the power and the rear looped on him. Ooh, another set of good avoidances, staying wide, and Jason Whitehead of course doing the correct thing of trying to get the car down to the low side of the track. So a good recovery. Unfortunately the yellow came out for that, but at least everyone is still running now. You can see here Adam Hackman, Jonatan heading for the pits. I think that was Adam Hackman. Looks like all the leaders actually is into the pits. Yeah, indeed. So we have Ibanez in the pits, Richard Wilkes, Thiago Canola, David Junt, Adam Hackman, Ray Riddall, David Saber. So essentially everyone who was on the lead lap has headed into the pits. So now we have 15 cars on the lead lap. As Jason White now heads for the pits, as does Gerard Rion. David Yates stays out, hoping for another yellow, I think, to get back onto the lead lap a little bit quicker and a little bit easier here. Jason Fitch in the pit stop. as is David Saber. I think that was Jason White indeed. Dave Miller, of course, in the pits. Hopefully your pit crew will be able to fix your car.
They will in 166 seconds.
Oh dearie me. And Bruno Chacon in the pits, so let me rephrase then. I hope you won't lose too much time fixing the car. We can see here Greg Delacello with a big group of cars behind him heading out to the pits. And Brian Yannick, of course, unfortunately, a full 27 laps now behind the leader. But still circulating, which is very nice to see.
I think with the benefit of hindsight there, Jonathan, I should have pitted as soon as the yellow came out and just accepted the penalty.
Well, unfortunately, bad luck is part of racing.
Certainly is.
As we can see here, the green flag is back out and the race resumes. And we have another yellow. So whatever happened back in the pack? Looks like it could have been Grant Riddle, possibly. With Jason Fitch and Ray Riddle with a bit of notching together. And it is indeed Grant Riddle who unfortunately loses the car on new tires and a full tank of fuel. Having a bit of a moment turning into turn 1. Probably the tire's not quite up to temperature yet. I suppose that's a positive for you, Dave, with another yellow that quickly. And that's also a very big positive for David Jakes, if I can find him in the list here. Oh, he's actually up into 7th. But of course heading to the pits now that he's on the lead lap. Which is understandable. He of course hasn't pitted yet, so this is a perfect, near enough perfect time for him to head for the pits. As we have the top 7 cars still on the lead lap, with the form of David Yakes being the last car on the lead lap. Let's see if he actually gets out on the lead lap. He does. So indeed that helped him a whole heap as well.
Well, it could definitely been a lot worse. I've only lost 5 laps on, well, not even that, 4 laps in that incident, so I'll take that.
Yeah, it certainly could have been worse. So let's see, green flag is back out. And the race is underway, and Richard Wilkes up the inside of David Yunt wastes no time, does Richard Wilkes. Can't quite make it stick though, but that shows intent. And then he shuts the door on on Canola, trying to get a bit of a run going there. Let's see what David Yakes can do. He's of course behind all the left cars, but past one he goes. Now Jason Whited, the next in line. Makes that one work, and then it's Brian Yannick. Of course, although with a slightly damaged car still, I can't think of it being completely up to snuff. We'll have some very good pace. Jason White gets out of the way there. Everyone trying to sort themselves out and get back up to running speed and momentum. Ooh, and that's a bit optimistic. Brian Yannick trying to look up the inside of Jason Fitch through the first turn kink. surely wouldn't work that well. As we can hear there, Ray Riddle had a bit of a tyre rub on the wall. We can see here David Junt sitting now right behind Alberto Ibanez and giving him a run for his money. It'll be interesting to see what David Yates can do when he gets free from all the lap traffic. As we can see, Grant Riddle, I believe, has been in the pits just now and has just come out of the pits in front of the leaders, 5 laps down. Not sure if he may have nudged the wall somewhere and picked up some damage which he felt as he needed to repair. We technically have 2 finals to watch at the moment, the leading pair, and then we have the 3rd and 4th placed car, and quite a tight battle as well. And Tiago Canola now with the run on Richard Wilkes, decides not to poke his nose inside, going into 4 and 5. And 64 laps in the books, going through turn 1, now into 2 and 3. We can see now, I believe David Yates has come free from the lap traffic, more or less. Because I noticed his time behind, compared to these guys, has been reduced a little bit, though I could of course be wrong. Looks like it's more about a question of fluctuation of the times and the differences between the drivers, although he is free from the lap traffic. So I wouldn't be surprised if he sets some fairly blistering times here. With Ray Riddle 6th, Adam Hackman 5th, Canola of course 4th, Wilkes 3rd, Junt 2nd, and now being dropped by Alberto Ibanez by 2 seconds. Of course, as we mentioned, David Yates 7th, and quickly closing in on Ray Riddle. 8th for David Saber, 9th for Jason Fitch, so a good return to racing for him so far. 10th for Jason Whited, just behind Jason Fitch. 11th for Gerard Riot, 12th for Jason White, trying to catch up to the guys in front, I'm sure. Then there's a 2-lap gap to Mick Chapman, and not that far behind him actually is Bruno Chacon for position, although both of them about to be lapped by the leaders. Greg De La Cella currently 15th, a lap behind Chacon and Chapman, and 17th seconds behind him is Dave Miller on a recovery drive now, but looking good so far after the pit stop. Grant Riddle a further 7 to 8 seconds behind, lapping himself from Bruno Chacon there. And Brian Yannick of course still running, unfortunately 27 laps off the lead, but even with that, if he just keeps running and finishing the race, it's not entirely unlikely that he may score a point or 2. We can see now David Yates has Ray Riddle in his crosshairs. Clearly see the speed difference, especially in the turns. Let's see, it looks like David Yates has a run here. He's probably going to go up the inside, he does. and takes 6th position away from Ray Riddle. So David Yates up into 6th, further 2.5 seconds up to the next car, which is Adam Hackman and a Craco Racing entry. And actually now 4 seconds between Ibanez and Junt for 1st and 2nd. And Junt actually falling back into the grasp of Wilkes and Canola. As we see Dave there going wide and letting the lead drivers pass. Very sportingly done there. So interesting to watch the different lines. Thiago with a very wide entry to 2 and 3, while Wilkes throws the car in on the entry a little bit more. Actually running a slightly wider line, possibly trying to save a bit of tires. See here now, David Yates right behind Adam Hackman. Ooh, nearly a bit of contact. Heading into the turn 1. There goes David Yates up into 5th. I don't think Hackman was ready for Yates to have that good of a run coming off the last turn. And now 2 seconds for him to catch up to championship rival Canola and Richard Wilkes. Looks like David Junt has found his feet again and pulled away from Wilkes and Canola. It actually looks like Mick Chapman is sticking with Wilkes and Canola at the moment. That's quite impressive. Of course, we can see that Penske is able to have some pretty good pace around here, but considering I believe Mick has been forced to pit for a bit of repairs, it's very impressive to see him at that kind of pace. As he is in white, gets out of the way. Now actually in a fight for position with Mick Chapman for 12th and 13th. And Chapman goes up the inside and takes 12th away, I think. No, sorry, that's... Oh, I'm getting a bit too excited here. There's 2 laps between them. Canola with a massive run coming off of 2 and 3. Wilkes held up by Bruno Chacon. And Thiago Canola takes advantage and flies past. Oh, and there's contact! Bruno Chacon in the inside barriers. Dear me, that's not good. We have a yellow flag out, obviously. It looks like Bruno's evening might be over. Because that will have been a hefty crash with the inside barriers. Not of his fault whatsoever, from what I could see early on in that. Let's have a quick look. So Bruno Chacon looking for a good run off the turn, and unfortunately it looks like him and Greg Della Cella looked for the same piece of racetrack, and unfortunately contact was made and Bruno Chacon flies into the inside barriers, and he is indeed, unfortunately, a retiree in this race. Very sorry to see that, but unfortunately that's racing sometimes. Sometimes you have bad luck. Good evening, Aztec. Sorry I didn't see your message. And good evening, Timo, as well. Nice to see you all here. Well, we have a yellow out on track. I'm checking back on the messages on the stream. And unfortunately, Greg Della Cella has received a stop and go. I believe it is because of passing the safety car while it's heading towards the pit lane. So Ray Riddle actually in the lead now. David Junt second. Looks like Alberto Ibanez up into third. Just got past Thiago Canola, who is down in fourth. Yakes fifth and sitting not that far behind, and Richard Wilkes not that far behind either. Adam Hackman a few seconds behind in seventh, and it's David Saber in eighth. Jason Fitch in ninth. Jason Whited in 10th. Adrian 11th. Jason White 12th. 13th for Mick Chapman. 14th for Dave Miller. 15th for Grant Rideau. 16th for Greg Della Cella. Unfortunately, retiree in Bruno Chacon. And Brian Yannick still circulating after his lengthy pit stop for repairs to the car in 18th. Looks like there's a bit of a gap up to the cars in front, but there is a battle going on. Dave Miller has just been left by David Yakes, who has gotten by Thiago Canola, so Yakes up in 4th, Thiago Canola down into 5th. And this is one of the trickiest parts of the race, both for all the drivers really, those being left having to keep an eye out both in front and behind them to make sure who is around, and for the fast drivers to make their way safely past all the traffic, trying to read what the drivers want them to do. Fitch with a bit of a slide going through the last turn. Here goes, well, Fitch, looks like Fitch wanted Thiago Canola up the inside there, but Thiago Canola saying, no, I don't really feel like it right now. I'll wait for a better opportunity. Like on this exit and through turn 1 it looks like. Yep, there he goes. Yakes in 4th now, of course, trying to catch up to Alberto Ibanez up in front of him here. Looks like Hackman and Wilkes are fairly close together as well.
Just to make life more interesting, I've had the steering failure again, so now I'm driving like a truck.
That's not good. I really hope for your sake that there's a yellow flag soon, so you can get that sorted. Of course, I can see it being a big hassle around here as the yellow just comes out as David Yakes was about to look for a move on Alberto Ibanez, and it looks like it's Adrian who has had a bit of a spin. Oh, it was on its way into the pits. Oh, that's unfortunate. Or is it out of the pits? No, it's into the pits. Looks like he may have had a bit of damage already, since he didn't use the normal pit entry, and unfortunately just touches the grass and has to spin, and unfortunately that's a yellow. We're almost half distance on this race already. But David Junt was able to take the lead. So David Junt first, Alberto Ibanez second, David Yates up into third. Fourth for Thiago Canola, fifth for Richard Wilkes, sixth for Adam Hackman, seventh and heading out of the pits is Ray Riddell. Eighth looks to be David Saber. Jason Fitch on his way into the pits in 9th. Jason White at 10th. Jason White 11th. Gerard Riot now 12th. 13th for Mick Chapman. 14th for Dave Miller into the pits, and I'd assume to try and sort out that steering wheel issue. 15th for Grant Riddell. 16th for Greg Della Cella. Brun Chacon unfortunately retired, and Brian Yannick into the pits and coming out in 18th. It looks like we will have green flag this time around. And we do, so green flag is out, the race is back underway, and we are now at half distance, 100 laps. Interesting as well with the difference in styles, because I can hear here David Junt is actually changing gears on the straights. When we were riding on board with David Yates, he was using, I believe, 4th the whole time. Looks like David Junt is changing between 4th and 5th down the straights. Anyway, looks like the battle for the lead could be on in the next few laps. I'd assume Alberto Ibanez is a little bit quicker, and David Yates is probably a little bit quicker as well, but of course you still need to make it happen, which won't be easy as there's a bit of a front wing that David Junt just made a bit of contact with. As Dave Miller making way for the leaders.
Looked like it might have been a Marlboro coloured car going into the pits. With
Yeah, that would be Ray Riddell then. Yep, he definitely dropped the lap. Oh, and this is indeed Ray Riddell. He's made some heavy contact with the wall, missing a wheel as well. Deary me. See, looks like it's through turn 1. In the dirty air, the car just breaks away from him and slides up into the barrier. Outside wall, and it bites hard, but luckily for us we're still under green flag. And now actually Alberto Ibanez runs a little bit wide, and David Yates sneaks past. Now on board with Richard Wilkes in 5th, Adam Hackman 1.5 seconds behind, and then the whole leading 4 in front of him is all within just under 3 seconds now. And David Saber as well, just under 7 seconds behind. top 7 running very close together, as I noticed that Ray Riddle has unfortunately been forced to retire. So the damage to the car was a bit too much for the pit crew to be able to repair. And it's very unfortunate. Ray was having a good race up until that point. When up front, it looks like David Yates has just taken the lead. He has indeed. So it looks like a good run coming through the last turn. And of course turn 1 is more or less flat, and then he just continues that run up the inside, and David Junt decides, I don't need to fight you right now, and lets him past. So David Yates takes the lead from being 1 lap down. It's a very impressive effort indeed. As it looks like David Junt is struggling just a little bit with the balance of his car. As Jason White makes room for the leaders. He himself is now up into the top 10. Another nice run for him for True Sports. Looks like David Yates is definitely quicker than David Junt. Although now with the lap traffic out of the way, looks like David has more or less stopped the loss of time at around 9/10 to a second behind. But we can see David Junt's car moving around a lot on entry to the corners. As he tries to also squeeze the power on, he lost 3/10 through turn 2 and 3 alone. Now having to defend, he loses a bit more time, and it looks like David Yates has broken away as he laps Greg Della Cella. Greg doing a good job running his own race, and for the most part staying out of trouble. So again goes wide, let's let the faster cars by, very sporting, nicely done. Yet another difference in style. I think Richard Wilkes is running quite high wings, running in 5th gear all the time, and really attacking the entry of the corners like we saw before. But here is very, very clear to see. 172 miles an hour he had before he started to slow for the final 2 turns. 80 laps to go, and still the top 7, well, top 6 is very close, and David Saber, unfortunately, I think with a bit of lap traffic, has lost time. That's of course one of the big ones in terms of lap time and gaining losing time. How well do you manage the traffic? As we can see here, Thiago Canola gets held up a little bit behind Jonatan. Now Richard Wilkes trying to sneak up inside and follow Canola through. Just about able to make it work. Dave Miller next on the list for these two, but we can see that the Ibanez and Junt has pulled away a little bit with this traffic. Very nicely done, Dave. As Richard Wilkes now gets past as well. Next on the list is Ryan Yannick, now running 17th, still a few laps before he's 16th. Lapping himself from Ray Riddle, who was running on the lead lap before his unfortunate off. As I see up ahead was that no, it was not a pass for position. Apologies, looked like it was David Junt's car, but it's Jason Whitehead's leader car entry. From a bit of a distance, those cars are fairly similar in their color scheme. So Whitehead runs a little bit wide through there and then decides to let Richard Wilkes pass as well. A bit of understeer there for Richard Wilkes as Canola goes up the inside of Ryan Yannick. Put him another lap down. It honestly sounds like actually that Mr. Wilkes is using left foot braking around here. Keep the boost level at a decent amount. Looks like the gap has opened up a little bit, but now Alberto Ibanez and David Junt are running very close with lap traffic. Grant Riddle being dispensed with, and Jason White as well. Grant Riddle has made his way up into 13th. Now David Junt with a bit of a loose moment coming through 4 and 5. Let's see if Alberto can make anything of that. He can't. "70 laps to go. And I believe we have one more stop before the end of the race. Well, we should have at least one more stop. As Alberto makes some pretty hefty contact with the wall there. Really hope his car ain't too badly damaged. Oh! Big loose moment. I think that the rear right took a bit of a beating there. He's definitely being way more careful. Ooh, and a big loose moment. Looks like Alberto will have to try and soldier on until the last pit stop. And either put some more rear wing on the car or trying to ask the pit crew to repair the damage. Was Jason White that is out? He's been out for quite a while by the looks of things. See, coming around the last turn. Tries to squeeze on the power and spins. It looks like he decides to park the car. I'm not sure if he has some damage still laying around on the car, but Nick Chapman up into the top 10 with that. Jason White in 9th. Jason Fitch in 8th now. Nice drive from him. David Saber 7th. Adam Hackman 6th with a spin for Grant Riddle. Nicely recovered car there. Good work, Grant. See if we can find out what happened. Oh, looks like two cars looking for the same piece of road. Grant looking for a bit of a cutback run, and Brian Yannick thought that's an invitation for me to sneak up the inside to unlap myself, and unfortunately contact was made. So another yellow. We are 63 laps from the end of the race. I wonder if anyone will take a bite of the sherry and try to make it on this stop. Looks like David Yates will be doing a bit of fuel saving. David Junt as well. Alberto Ibanez as well. And Theo Canola, Richard Wilkes in, Adam Hackman in, David Saber in. So everyone on the lead lap heading in, and everyone will have to do at least a little bit of fuel saving to the end of the race. That I'm fairly sure of, because the general maximum lap you can get out of the cars here is 62. And we have 64 to 63 left as they leave the pit lane. So they will have to save 2 laps and a bit of fuel. And David Yates comes out of the pit still in the lead. So none of them will want to pit again. And let's see how this goes for all the guys. This will be very interesting to watch come the end of this race. And Brian Yannick has now made his way up into 16th, and there's enough left for him to make it to 15th. Not sure about the rest, but green flag is out. We are back racing, and oh, there's a bit of contact there. Alberto Ibanez looking up the inside, trying to take the lead of this race, and it looks like he will for now. That was some very aggressive driving, but that's exactly what he needed to do. Now let's see when and where the guys try to save some fuel. Looks like David Yates doesn't want to do it just now, at least. Looking for a bit of a move. So we have Ibanez in the lead, David Yates second, Junt third, Canola fourth, Hackman fifth, Wilkes 6th and Saber 7th, all of them within 5 seconds. Well, as I say that, David Saber drops out of the 5-second bracket just about. Looks like it's the lead 5, and then Richard Wilkes with a bit of an opportunity if anything happens to the top drivers or leading drivers here. As Hackman unfortunately makes a bit of contact with the wall. Alberto Ibanez and David Yates both scrapes the wall a little bit. Nolan Hackman now fighting for 4th. David Junt, I know he was struggling a little bit in practice, but somehow he's able to drag the car up into the top 5 positions at almost every race. I have no idea how he does it, but it's very impressive indeed to be able to do that. David Yates here with a bit of a run, looking up the inside. Looks like he has to run, he should be able to get by, and he does. Now David Junt looking to take advantage of that, side by side with Ibanez through turn 1, and he takes second away from Ibanez. Ibanez trying to do the counter attack. Junt a little bit loose through 2 and 3, but still gets a run along the straight and holds on to second for now. Let's see if Yates can get away now, and I think if he does get a 4-second lead or something like that, he will start to try and save some fuel. Of course, he's still running the car in 4th, so he's not in a fuel saving ish sort of 5th gear. And Alberto trying to look up the inside, hits the curve a little bit, understeers wide, drops a few tenths off the back of David Junt's racing entry. Wilkes scraped the wall a little bit there. Not sure if that will affect the car. I wonder, considering Alberto Ibanez got out with the leaders, I don't think he will have repaired his car at all. So either he has changed his driving style to accommodate for the slightly bent rear right corner of his car, or he is struggling still with that machine. Wilkes a little bit loose in the middle of 2 and 3. See here, Wilkes running at the 22.4, his best 22.1. So at least Richard Wilkes is trying his darndest here, and I'm sure if he is, then all of them are going as quick as they possibly can at this very moment. Looks like Hackman is, no sorry, that's Canola now, trying to look for a move on Alberto Ibanez. Now lap traffic will come into play as well, as Richard Wilkes closes in on Adam Hackman as well. Try and make a move on him. Jason White goes wide, Greg Dallacella goes to the bottom. White stays wide to let Wilkes past. Nicely done, nicely choreographed by Dallacella and White. As Brian Yannick is now up into 15th, I noticed, at the back of the pack. Unfortunately, still 27 laps off the lead. Gerard Rion running the wide line, trying to stay out of the way of the leading cars. Nicely done. Very sporting indeed. another slight scrape with the wall there for Richard Wilkes. Well, it looks like all the lead cars are spaced out a little bit now. Unfortunately for us. Actually, David Yates is still not trying to save any fuel, but David Yates still in the lead, just over a second back to David Junt, who has a further second on Alberto Ibanez. Who for some reason calls as a pit stop in his graphics. I don't think that's true. He has 1.5 seconds and a little bit more on Tiago Canola. He himself has about half a second to Adam Hackman, who's all crossed up going through 3 and 4. No, sorry, that's the last. So 4 and 5. Not able to hold it, but drops a bit of time to Canola with that. Richard Wilkes in 6th, about a second behind Adam Hackman. And then a further 8 seconds behind is David Saber, the last car on the lead lap, for Newman Haas. 2 laps down, in 8th is Jason Fitch, doing a very good job indeed on his return after a couple of races away. Jason White is currently 9th, a further 3 laps behind. Another 3 laps behind now is Dave Miller, up into 10th, so a nice recovery drive for Dave. 11th is Grant Riddle, another 2 laps behind. 18 seconds behind him is Greg Della Cella in 12th, and I believe the last points paying position. 23 seconds behind him is Gerard Rion in 13th. A further 5 laps behind is Mick Chapman in 14th. And a further 8 laps behind, 27 laps behind the leaders, are Brian Yannick after his lengthy repair. Jason Whitehead, Ray Riddle and Bruno Chacon is unfortunately our retirees, as we have 35 laps to go. David Yates has actually opened up the lead a little bit more, now 1.5 seconds to David Junt. And about a second still back to Alberto Ibanez. He has opened up a bit of a gap to Tiago Canola, so now 2.5 seconds. Further 2 seconds behind is Adam Hackman, who has Richard Wilkes for close company here for 5th and 6th. Grant Riddle in front of them, several laps down with a couple of spins, but still with a good bit of pace. So, but now Hackman goes up the inside, and Grant very sportingly lets Wilkes through as well, as to not impact the lead battle too much. Wilkes now with a move. I was just about to say that we can see that the Hackman and Wilkes are very evenly matched, but And just as I was about to say that, Wilkes got a bit of a run, and now we're in very close contention, looking for the move. As Greg Dellacella goes wide and lets the leaders past. Very sporting there, but looks like he may have a little bit of trouble with the car. Wilkes now looks up the inside in 4 and 5 and actually makes the move stick. Nice move, nice opportunistic pass. Now it'll be interesting to see what will happen in this fight. Oh, there's a blown engine. I think that's a blown engine. No, it's actually in the wall. That's Alberto Ibanez. What? Surely not. Whatever happened here? Dear me, looks like there's a big gaggle of cars. David Yates up in front. Fitch looking down on the inside. David Junt has to check up for Jason Fitch. Alberto tries to check up but can't check up enough. His outside barrier is very hard, and unfortunately Alberto is a retiree from this race. Oh dearie me, that's really unfortunate. He was having such a great race as well. With that, of course, Adam Hackman was able to get by Richard Wilkes as well, so Hackman up into 4th. Wilkes technically up into 5th, but he could have been 4th. Thierry Canola up into 3rd. That will be unhappy news for David Yates. Junt now 4 seconds behind David Yates, so I'd assume David Yates could be looking to save a bit of fuel now with 23 laps to go. My apologies. That's so unfortunate for Alberto. Deary me. It looks like that, of course, also dropped Hackman and Wilkes a bit further behind Canola and Junt. You see there, Hackman had a bit of a moment, touched the grass. Here comes Richard Wilkes up the inside. There's actually a little bit of contact. And Richard Wilkes makes his way back past Adam Hackman, up into 4th. Hackman back down to 5th. Now Junt and Canola in the fight as well. Canola with a big run through 1. Possibly due to that gear change for David. Oh, and a big loose moment for David. Here comes Thierry Canola looking up the inside. He has a bit of an overlap, but Junt has some great pace in a straight line and actually gets up in front of Thiago there. Very impressive to watch. With 17 laps to go, make that 16 very shortly here. Oh, and Canola trying to get a run onto the back straight there, but Greg Dellacella running wide, letting the fast cars by, was sort of in his way. Canola is really quick through 1, but can't quite make it up the inside into 2 and 3. cut back here though. This could be Canola's opportunity. Very quick off the turn. Oh, and Junt actually closes the way. Oh, that was a little bit late on the defensive to go on the inside, I'd say, but very close call to make, so... Oh, as he misses a gear! David Junt misses a gear and Canola up the inside. Still side by side through the turn. Lap car up in front as well. And David Junt backs off. Looked like David Junt backed off, not sure why, but Canola up into second. Now 10 seconds the lead for David Yates, with 13 laps to go. Now Junt will have to look out for Richard Wilkes, who is flying late on in this race. Having made his way past Adam Hackman, he's caught up to both Junt and Canola. So Wilkes could still be on for a podium finish, whereas Junt gets another loose moment coming through the last turn. Difference in the way they drive. Junt with a slightly slower entry. Wilkes wanting to throw the car in there. When Junt with another loose moment, he's definitely struggling with his tires. And Wilkes dives up the inside here. A little bit on the loose side, but gets past. Let's see if he can stay there. Looks like he should be able to do so. So Wilkes up into third, a podium position for now, and 3.5 seconds to make up on Thiago Canola. I think he could possibly do that. Although 9 laps to go is a bit of a tall order. Let's see, a little bit further behind, David Saber running in 6th. Further 2 laps behind, Jason Fitch now up into 7th with the demise of the unfortunate Alberto Ibanez. 8th now for Jason White, a very nice drive from him. Dave Miller, a excellent recovery drive up into 9th. Grant Riddle up into 10th, so another one with a good recovery drive. Gerard Rion in 11th, and Greg Della Cella currently in 12th. Still 12th, last points paying position. And only 6 to 7 seconds behind Gerard Rion. So he could still make his way up into 11th. If he has any pace left in the car. Mick Chapman running 13th, Alberto of course retired. I believe Brian Yannick will be able to make his way up into 14th before the end of the race. But currently running in 15th. It unfortunately looks like the whole field is more or less spread out at this point. Not much for battles to talk about here. As Jason White goes wide to let the faster cars by. So David Yates, 2 laps to go. Make that 1 lap to go. White flag is out. And this has been a fantastic recovery drive from David Yates. That stopping over early on I thought would put a bit of a spanner in the works for him, but he played the strategy to perfection, had a little bit of luck on his side. And when you can get that to work, that's all you need. As he comes through the final turn to take the checkered flag, I thought, but my apologies, there's one more lap. I never learned the lap tracking in AMS. Never learned at all. And there he goes, across the start-finish line to take the win here in the Bosch Sparkplug Grand Prix. A fantastic drive from David Yates. Second is Thiago Canola, so not that many points lost for Canola, which is very unfortunate for David Yates in the championship hunt. Third is Richard Wilkes, so a very good drive late on to go from, I believe he was 6th up into 3rd. 4th for David Junt, another consistent drive from him. 5th for Adam Hackman, despite a couple of moments along the way, still in the top 5, which is nice for him. Very good qualifying pace, obviously, and good to see that he was able to make that work in the race. 6th for David Sabre, another one with a couple of small moments, but nice to see him up there. 7th for Jason Fitch, a great return for him to the series with some very solid points. Jason White in 8th, I think he'll be very happy with that. 9th for Dave Miller, I hope you're happy with that recovery drive, Dave. Grant Riddle in...
across the line with a dead engine and no fuel.
So a very close call indeed, but nicely done there, mate. Grant Riddle in 10th, DeAndre 11th, and the final points paying position goes to Greg Dellacella in 12th. 13th and just outside the points, Mick Chapman. The first of our retirees, Alberto Ibanez, 14th. Brian Yannick soldiered on, not quite able to make it into the points, but 15th is his reward. The remaining retirees in this race was Jason Whitehead, Ray Riddle, and Bruno Chacon.
User joined your channel.
As we are joined in the booth by our own Jason White. Good evening, Jason. I'll take that as a hello. Clearly, the race was a. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think I've ever been happier to see a checkered flag. Oh man, staying out of the leader's way was incredibly difficult because as soon as you let one by, you had to slow down a requisite amount to let that person by, and then it's inevitable that the next one's going to come by, and next thing you know, you're up against the wall and brushing the concrete, and by the end of the race, my car was like driving on marbles. It was just, I was doing everything I could to keep it underneath me. I had my sway bars full up, and I was just staying to the right, trying to stay out of everyone's way. Because I didn't want to lose that 8th place. I was that close to getting it, and I'm just like, I don't feel like stopping for repairs. The car was drivable enough where I was like, all right, just gonna keep going. But congrats to Jakes. This keeps the championship alive, I guess.
Yeah, that was a... Yeah, I believe so. And that was a great recovery drive from him, it must be said.
Did he get like caught out by the pace car letting people go early?
Yes,
and
he
in the
did.
wrong place? Okay, yeah, that's a problem on a track that's this short.
So I think essentially the safety car headed into the pits. He went just a little bit too early and sort of passed the safety car before it was fully in the pits. I believe that is what happened.
Goodness. Is that Tiago there?
Yeah, looks like it. Good evening, Tiago.
Good evening, Jonathan. Congrats, Jakes.
Yeah, Jakes is just coming in now, so we got our championship contenders in the booth. This ought to be good.
We can clearly feel the tension.
No, that's my knuckles unlimbering now. That's the tension.
I can't wait to watch the broadcast back to find out what happened, because I had a kind of knuckle down race and I was too focused on what was going on around me to pay attention to other things on the track. So very eventful, that's all I can say.
It certainly looked like after your stop-go penalty, I noticed you set a sub-22 lap time straight away. So I'd assume from that point, as you say, it was a white-knuckle all-out race to try and get back.
Yeah, all the strategy was out the window at that point. You hit it on the head. I really don't understand what the game thought I did wrong there. So will be interesting again to see the replay and try to figure that out. But to go from leading to being stop and go 10-second hold and lap and a half behind, it's time to drop the hammer at that point. And got lucky on the caution to get the lap back. So
reminds me of another Canadian who had a penalty and came back to win a race.
Indeed.
Yeah, but you're not of the French Canadian variety.
No.
You.
And then the last restart there, it got close again. Got some contact and damage, but roll bar change was able to sort it out and keep going. And then I saw there was something else that happened there with about 20 to go. And no matter what I do, I can't seem to gain any points on Tiago. He's right there every time.
I did my best to get him liquored up a couple nights ago. I guess that didn't have any effect. I apologize. I did my best, David. That's all I can do.
Yeah, looking at your race, Tiago, looked like you had quite a... Is it okay to call it a quiet race? While still finishing second, or...?
I'm so happy. It was really tense for me. I was just trying to keep the car in one piece the whole race, using low RPMs, sometimes fourth gear, sometimes third gear, trying to catch up people ahead. I knew Jakes was really fast, and I knew he would be able to recover that lap back, and I knew he would be ahead again. So there was no reason to fight him when he was behind me too. So I just was really fair with him. So let him pass. He was faster. Was very good race. Very chaotic sometimes in the restarts, and a lot of fun. And I saw Dave, John, and Ibanez fighting each other. So okay, maybe there's a hope for me to get the top two.
I think I can see what you mean by that. I suppose this would be a question aimed to both of you. Laguna Seca next time. How do you rate your chances around there? Maybe David could start answering that question. If he's still here, that is.
Yeah. Always liked driving there. I don't think it's going to be quite like here, where I had this Nazareth race circled on the calendar before the season started. So I really wanted to run good here and work really hard on the car. It's Laguna Seca's road course where Tiago's going to be stronger. So I don't know. I need a miracle here. Coming 2 races to go.
Not quite the three-way battle that we had the last time we ran these cars in R Factor 1, but it really is cool to see you two go at it head-to-head.
And what about you, Tiago? How do you rate your chances for Laguna Seca next time out?
It's a track that I like a lot. I like to race there. I don't know about the car because the Lola T87 doesn't have a front grip at all.
User joined your channel.
So yeah, let's see. The car will be at least, I don't know, 0.6 seconds, maybe 1 second. I don't know. It's lower than the T88 and the March 88C. I struggle a lot at Road America, and yeah, I know.
It will certainly be an interesting round to watch, it has to be said. Will be extremely interesting to see how the championship plays out in the end. But either way, congratulations to both of you, and good luck for the remaining 2 rounds.
Thanks.
Thanks for the broadcast, Jonathan. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, same here.
You're very much welcome. I also noticed we have Richard Wilkes in the booth here, so looked like you had a slightly different strategy to most others. Looked like you had a bit more wing on the car, and looked like that paid off towards the end of the race.
Well, Jonathan, I for sure didn't have more wing in the beginning. The setup with which I finished the race was totally different from the setup the one that I begun the race. The car in the beginning was slow and dangerous, which is never a combination you want to have, especially behind traffic. And then I changed wings, I changed the roll bars, and the car came to me at the end, especially with low fuel and worn tires. It was really quick then, and thanks to that, I was able to climb a few spots there at the end. It was a really hectic race, not many cautions, which was good, but I had many close calls with people. Not necessarily anybody's fault, but I had many close calls. I almost ran into the back of Alberto, for example, which I think he tried to go to the pits, but he slid into the track. That raised the hair that I didn't think I had in my back, basically.
Yeah, we caught that on the broadcast, and it looked very, very scary indeed. And yeah, I suppose I'll give you the same question in terms of Laguna Seca. How do you rate your chances there after a in-race change to the car and making that work very well for you here?
Well, I like Laguna. Unfortunately, I didn't have the best. Well, I wouldn't say results. I had a few good results, but I didn't have the best pace in road courses. But I'll try my best. I hope to at least be right behind the fast guys, right behind Jakes and Brandon, etc. Try to bring the fight to them at least.
Okay, sounds good. So, yeah, best of luck for the next round, and thank you to all our drivers and viewers for tuning in. We'll have a quick look to finish off with the trivia question, and one more reminder of what's coming up here at HSO in the next couple of weeks. So the question for tonight, of course, was who won the last IndyCar race held at Nazareth, which was Sunday, August 29th, 2004? Was it A. Dan Weldon, B. Tony Kanaan, or C. the fast Scot Dario Franchitti? I know Barry Lynn guessed A, and I believe Angel May guessed B. So Dan Weldon and Tony Kanaan respectively. Any of you in the booth here have any guesses on that one?
I can't guess because I wrote the question.
Very true, Jason.
I'll plump for B.
So Tony Kanaan, okay. Any other takers before we come to the answer? Take the silence as a no. So the answer to who won the last IndyCar race held at Nazareth is A. Dan Weldon. And considering how young he looks in the picture, I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of his first, if not even his first, IndyCar win. Though I could of course be very much wrong with that.
What? So I believe that was his second season of racing in 2004.
Then it's not that far of a stretch indeed. And yeah, in terms of what's coming up here at HSO, and also congratulations to Barry Lynn, who also guessed correct on the question. Next weekend, on November the 17th, we have the 59th Grand Prix de France and 5th Trophée Paul Ricard, a double header at the Paul Ricard circuit in France, in the 1973 Formula 3 Championship, rounds 11 and 12 of 14. And the Wednesday following that, we have the International Ardac Alpen Trophée in the 1995 Super Tourenwagen Meisterschaft Championship on November the 20th, round 6 of 8.
House fart.
Sorry?
House fart.
Sort of, maybe, possibly not.
Farzoid.
I suppose that would be more correct, yes.
Okay.
And in 2 weeks' time, we have the Champion Sparkplug 300 kilometers at Laguna Seca for the penultimate round of the Kart 1988 Championship. That's November 24th. Same time, same place. But until next weekend, I'll wish you all a good week, and I hope we'll see you all back next Sunday. Good night and take care, everyone.